What is up, plant friends? So for today's video, I'm really excited. We're doing something really fun. I'm gonna be taking you throughout my entire apartment, and I'm gonna just show you every plant that I own, good or bad. This is gonna be like my little 2023 plant tour, I guess is, I think what it's called, what people do. But yeah, I'm really excited. I've been trying to decide how I wanted to shoot this video. I think it makes the most sense for me to physically take y'all in the general areas that the plants are in versus bringing them to one zone. I don't know, I feel like it makes more sense. So we're gonna be doing that. We're going to start inside the living room and then wrap all the way around into my spare room. I'm gonna do my outside plants last, just because as soon as I open the front door, my cat will start to scream and it's gonna make it harder to record. So without further ado, let's go check out some plants. We are in the kitchen area. Right next to me here is my very, very tall philodendron bipinfolium. I've had this one for a while. I got it as a little 4-inch plant and it probably had like 3 leaves on it. You can kind of see I have cut it back before. I don't even think I cut it. I think it snapped because I wasn't giving it really good support at the time. My only issue was since I was inconsistent with lighting and kind of just overall care for this one, the leaves started to lose the sizing, they started to lose the details, you know, the little like fins on the end. I really want to cut it back. I want to cut it back honestly all the way back to the beginning and kind of redo it from there. It did fall not too long ago. I believe it did snap somewhere like up in this general area. I think pretty soon I'm gonna cut it all the way back and do a bunch of little baby propagations. Love the shape of it. It definitely gives like Florida green vibes depending on what you're looking at, especially when the leaves are more mature. Really, really cool plant. Haven't really ever had issues with it other than me being lazy and not staking it up very well. Right here, you might be able to see it. This is my Alocasia frydek. I actually do have a reason why this one's over here. This one has been in quarantine for a while and I didn't want it to not get light because I didn't really have a good zone for plants to be in quarantine, but also to get the lighting that they need. I don't really see any more on here. I will say it seems like every new leaf that comes in, there's spider mites on it. So that's why I've been really cautious to just put it back in. These are the 2 plants that I have in the kitchen area. Like I said, nothing too crazy. With that being the case, let's go on and move towards the bookshelf next. Here over by my bookshelf area. Starting off, I have this beautiful jasmine plant. I believe it's Jasminium poly something. I'm gonna be real, Latin names are not my strong suit. I am learning and trying to get better. I did trim this back, honestly, a lot compared to some of the prior videos that I was in. A lot of the blooms just were kind of going through. It was very beautiful, it smelled wonderful. I did let it dry out a little too much at first, which was a bummer, but it's still looking really good. It's definitely something that I'm excited for in the future in regards to it blooming again. I believe, like I said, for jasmine plants, it's like the end of winter, they'll kind of start to bloom. Don't hold me on that. The windows over here are all west facing windows. I get a lot of natural light, lots and lots of natural light, and I tend to keep my windows open throughout the majority of the day as well. Underneath here, I have this very, very cute peperomia. I believe it's a peperomia radiance angula. This plant's been super laid back. I have 0 issues with it. Originally, I had it in my greenhouse cabinet and it was blooming like crazy, but it wasn't growing. So I actually really just didn't care for it. It was one of those ones where I was like, you're in my collection, you kind of look cool, but I also typically don't like peperomia. So I kind of just never really gave it too much thought. But after I moved it out and I kind of just, it's kind of been all over the place. No matter where it's gone ever since it's been taken out of the cabinet, it's done phenomenal. And it's been slowly becoming one of my like favorite plants. I just like how it trails. I think it's super pretty. A part of me also wants to hang it somewhere, I think, in the future. I don't know, but this is the peperomia. And then I have this big old boy right here. I've heard a multitude of names for this one. I believe when I bought it, it was a philodendron moonlight, but I've also heard like philodendron golden or golden moonlight or something on those terms. This one I got as a Christmas gift. So it's been over a year and it was not this big. I still haven't repotted it from the original nursing pot. It's just sitting in this big pot because it's cracked and I need to fix it. It just kind of solidifies my love for philodendrons. It has grown so beautiful. I've had very much little to no issues with this one. I have given it south facing light, west facing light. It takes it all and it just really thrives. It's such a fun and wonderful plant. I need to pot it in because I also feel like I might need to stake it up soon because some of the different plants, because there's multiple in here, are definitely starting to lean a little bit more. This is the Philodendron Moonlight. Behind everything over here, I have my Hoya linearis. I'm gonna see if I can grab it real quick without destroying it. I have it on the very far edge and I have it just kind of cascading down. It's to kind of give a little bit more privacy, but also I think it just looks really stunning from the outside perspective. In my opinion, one of the coolest looking Hoyas. It's so just interesting. It reminds me of like a weeping willow tree, just the way that it kind of flows and grows. Very, very fun plant, very easy plant. It's been very low maintenance for me. Right underneath my jasmine plant here, I have this Dischidia. I honestly do not recall the exact name. This one is special to me even though it doesn't look its best right now. It was thriving earlier on and I don't know what happened. A lot of it ended up kind of drying out from the backside. So I have this up here and it looks really good. I mentioned it in the past. I think I might even cut and try to fill in the back and see if I can get it to grow out a little bit more. But if not, I'm even consider moving it into something a little bit smaller. I really, really enjoyed the plant and I just want to keep some of it. I wouldn't say I need it to be huge. Pretty cool plant. Like I said, it was a gift. So that's why I think I take it a little bit more personal. Anytime I'm gifted something, I feel like I have to do everything I can to make sure it does not die or does not look awful. So that's where we're at here with the Dischidia. Next, we have this Philodendron tortum. This one's actually super cool. I showed it last time when I was doing the bookshelf setup, and originally I wasn't really too sure what I wanted to do. It was just sitting in this little water propagation station that I ended up getting with the plant. And I had the leca balls from IKEA, so I ended up putting them in more from a decor aspect. But the roots have been growing like a lot more, like since putting them in the leca, which is really cool. I don't really know much about leca, or I haven't really messed with it. That's why I just got that little bag from IKEA. Finally, too, the new growth is starting to slowly pop out. Pretty excited. Not only does it look really nice, it seems to be really helping. I am trying to change the water every week on this one just to promote some more oxygen, because I do notice as soon as I put new water in, you really see like the little air bubble show up. So the next one is my Alocasia Black Velvet. It has the velvety feeling, just like you would expect from the name Black Velvet. Overall, it's been a really easy plant. It was definitely one of the first alocasias that I got, and I've learned a lot from it. It has looked better in the past, but I also will say that it was getting a lot more humidity when it was doing its best. So I do run the humidifier most of the time in this space. I know that's definitely helping. I am finally seeing a lot more new growth that doesn't look like a bloom. I am giving this one away soon. It's not that I don't care about it. I guess I'm just not really focused too much. My goal is just to keep it alive until my friend ends up taking it from me. But Alocasia Black Velvet for you. On this side here, I have this rooted up cutting of a Philodendron coronatum, I believe is the Latin name, but it's also known as like the heart-shaped leaf philodendron. I threw it in this bottle forever ago and I honestly forgot about it, and it's been doing very, very well, as you can see from the root systems. I should change the water out a little bit more often, but it's still doing good. I definitely feel like I need to make a decision though with it. I don't know if I want to pot it soon or if I should find like a cooler glass vase and just have this one religiously living in water. So I don't know, I gotta think about that. Right behind the cornatum, similar setup as the Hoya linearis. Hopefully I'm not gonna rip stuff. This is my Scindapsus. I just kind of let it do what it wants. I probably should trim this off because it's really not doing much, but I have it kind of behind, just kind of trailing and covering up a little bit of space. It is a really pretty plant. I really do enjoy the look of it. I think it's really fun. It hasn't really given me too many issues. I kind of just watch it for when it curls, kind of like this. The soil does feel a little, still a little moist, but any day now and it'll be time to water and they'll start to perk back out a little bit more. Other than that, this plant, I don't really care about getting it super big by any means. I kind of like how small it is. I think it adds to the charm. I will say it's kind of leggy, like not super leggy, but it's kind of getting into that leggy zone. So I might take some cuttings and try to fill up the pot and get it to be more full than anything. I have that just right in the back area. It gets a lot of west-facing window light, and it's been doing really good in that space. I see some new growth there, and I thought I saw some new growth on one of the other little stems as well too. Move you a little bit lower because it's easier to see the rest of the plants in this specific area of the bookshelf. But to start off, we are going strong with my Anthurium veitchii. So this one I had growing in the greenhouse for a very long time. Since September, I actually just took it out for the first time probably about 2 weeks ago, and it seems to be doing pretty good. I am getting some yellowings on the sides of like some of these older leaves. The newest leaf seems to be generally healthy from the transition, which makes me happy. I still see a lot of root growth. It looks like it's doing very, very good in a lot of other areas. Like there's so many little baby roots underneath here. I definitely plan on potting this into a soil mixture soon. It's just in moss, and I feel like it might do better now that it has a really good root system. I think it's time to move it first and foremost, but I also feel like it potentially would do a lot better if it was in more of a soil-based setting versus just all moss, since it's not in that super humid greenhouse anymore, and it's kind of more in the average of like 60s to 70s humidity. Next up, we have my Syngonium milk confetti. It's doing pretty good. It's a Syngonium, so I don't feel like they are too needy as long as you don't let them dry out too much in between waterings. It gave me this all like super pink leaf not too long ago, which I thought was super funny. I don't really care so much for the pink aspect, but I do like the subtle pink splotches. Like the all pink leaf, not my vibe, because there's a pink splash Syngonium, I believe, that is pretty much just all pink. With the little splotches and stuff like that, I think they have so much character. Like I said, very, very easy plant, nothing too crazy. I'm still trying to decide what I want to do with this. It's kind of just placed right on here for the time being. But out of the out of the 3 Syngoniums, I want to say this one's my favorite. Like I said, the pink spots are just something really unique, and I do like the lighter color green tones as well too. But yeah, Syngonium milk confetti. And then behind the Syngonium here, I have my Dioscorea elephantipes, I believe is how it is pronounced. This was a gift not too long ago from a really good friend of mine. I absolutely adore this plant. I love the caudex. The texture on there is just phenomenal. Since I've had it in my space, it hasn't really done too much. It is getting a lot of west-facing light, so I feel like it's doing pretty good overall. The stem is a little bit more tilted. It's not that it's snapped, but I am keeping very close eyes on it just to make sure nothing crazy is going on with it overall. Lots of bright light, and I've been letting it dry out in between waterings. Since it's in terracotta and it's in a pretty airy mix, I feel like I'm hitting it every like week and a half right now. In the summertime, I'll kind of see. I feel like there's a chance I might move it just because I don't want to end up accidentally burning it by any means. Our next one here is this gorgeous Pachira aquatica, I believe is the Latin name. I butchered it last time I talked about it, but this is my money tree. I love it. It is in the stump form. I have it potted in this cute little yellow pot, but this is one of my favorite plants right now. It grows so nicely. It's so easy to take care of, and its leaf pattern's also just super beautiful. I have had 0 issues with this one. I let it just go bone dry in between watering, gets lots of light, and it has been giving me consistent new growth since day 1. So I'm really excited to see how this one does in the summertime during the growing season and things of that nature. I really think we can get some super good growth on this one. Pushing on through, we have up first my Anthurium bessiae. So this was the first plant I took out of the cabinet. It's in a weird space right now. Not like physically, but just how it looks and what's going on. I have one leaf that was the original leaf that is going this way. And then this was the leaf that it gave me, the first leaf and the only leaf so far. And it looks like this. They're opposite ways. It's kind of going all over the place. It has consistent growth, or not consistent growth. It has been very consistent for me in regards of just living. The roots, I can see they are continuing to grow. They are doing absolutely phenomenal, but I don't know, it just doesn't seem to really want to push out any new leaves. When it was in the greenhouse, this was the first plant to give me a new leaf. This was the fastest growing plant that I had. I will say humidity, I think, is a big deal for this one. It's in, like I said, between 60 to 70%, and it has been out of the cabinet for a long time too. And it's been doing very, very well since then. Just really hasn't done anything other than give me an inflow. Definitely a really cool anthurium. It has a very thick, leathery almost type feeling to the leaves. So I'm a big fan of it overall. I just wanted to give me another leaf. No inflow, no nothing else, just give me a leaf and I will be very happy with it. On this backside here, we have my Monstera Thai Con. So this one, like I said, was kind of interesting. I talked about it in my last video. It gave me this weird, like, kind of black looking gunk where the new growth was coming out. I thought the leaf was gonna die, but it came out fine. I still, once again, don't know what it was. This one's been chilling. It's not been giving me too much fuss. It's in just moss and perlite for the time being. I don't know what my plan is. I think I might keep it in for a while just because I'll talk about the Monstera Albo a little bit more because we just repot that. That has made me more nervous to pot the Thai Con up as well too. But this is this little guy, lots of nice bright indirect light and nothing too crazy. Like I said, it hasn't given me really any issues, but I've only had it for 2 months max at this point. I have this vase full of flowers still. These were all the way back from Valentine's Day. It's been a couple weeks and they're doing pretty good. They're definitely coming towards the end from the looks of it. I forget what these are called. I don't believe they're tiger lilies. Someone did say not too long ago that they thought that's what they were. I think they start with a C. It's a type of lily, but I don't know. I don't think it's a tiger lily, but it could be. Just a simple vase of flowers I got from the grocery store. Our next one here is my Monstera Albo. If you watched my last video, we just repotted this into a clear pot, but as you can see, it is now in a terracotta pot. After about 3 or 4 days, I noticed the leaves were limping, kind of how they are now. And I started freaking out, so I took it out, I examined the roots. Nothing was rotted. I did chop off a little part that looked black, but it wasn't mushy. So I wasn't too sure, and I gave it a little bit of like a hydrogen peroxide soak. Potted it in terracotta, I made it extra airy and chunky, and I gave it a light watering, but I'm still very nervous about this one. I absolutely jinxed myself. I know people always say that these tend to rot super easily, and I was like, oh, like I've had such good luck with this one. No way. No, I'm so scared now. I really don't know. So I'm gonna give it a couple more days. This leaf has progressively gotten more yellow. I only did this yesterday, or 2 days ago now. So that's why I'm kind of waiting to see a little bit more. It's only affecting the oldest leaf, which is making me feel a little bit better, but I feel like I do see these ones are very limp and very sad looking. So, like I said, we'll give it a little bit more time, see what goes on, but if I feel like it's not doing any better or it's progressively getting worse, I think I'm gonna switch it to just moss and perlite, and I'm just gonna see how it goes from there, because I refuse to lose this one. I really, really do. I will say the aerial root on the back side of it is growing really nicely, so I'm hoping that helps out. But yeah, my Monstera Albo. Super cloudy outside, so I have to keep changing the lighting just to make sure it's not overexposed or super underexposed. Our next one here, let's see if I can get it over without it all getting tangled up. My variegated string of hearts. It's a Ceropegii something, I can't remember, but it's a string of hearts. I am in love with this one. I had a non-variegated one forever, and that one was one of my favorite plants, but as soon as I saw the variegated version, I really wanted that one instead. So I ended up selling it to a friend of mine and getting this one, and it gets such good light, and you can just see how like sun-stressed it's starting to look. It's having such nice pinky rose colors, and I just very much love it. It's something just really pretty, like especially in person, like when I walk by and I see it kind of cascading on the side of the bookshelf, it just looks good. It feels good. I feel like it's exactly where it's supposed to be. I will say this plant took me forever to learn. I killed like 2 of them before I figured it out. You just can't water them too early. They need to go bone dry. That's like the biggest thing I could say about them, at least in my experience. Underneath, we have 2 more plants. Next one is going to be my Hoya Crimson Queen. She is doing phenomenal. other than our monthly check-in with mealybugs. I have very little issues with this plant. It is growing on a funky trellis that I made out of jewelry wire. I definitely want to do something with this one. I love how it looks. It has so much character to it. I definitely think I want to keep the trellis vibe going, but I don't know. I just need to think about a way to really showcase this one and or do some more reorganization so I can find a better home for it. To match the energy, I have the Hoya Australis. This one was growing up against my window. It actually grabbed onto the string and kind of just took over for a long time. I had it also on this makeshift trellis. It's fallen apart because of how heavy it's gotten. Plus me having to take it down just made it super lopsided and heavy. One of my favorites. This is such a cool plant. If you have it in your space and you just let it do what it wants, it will take over. So if you want that jungle vibe and you have bright light, like this is the one for you. That is gonna be the last plant in the bookshelf area. This is pretty much gonna be the majority of my like west facing window sides. I have a couple other plants right in the back side behind. So I'm gonna turn the camera and show those, but not before I show off one of my absolute favorite plants that I've gotten in the past couple months. This is one of my favorite plants I have gotten recently. Like I mentioned, this is the Cocos nuferus. I have to tilt it because the leaves will hit the roof, but I want to just show how cool the coconut looks as well too, and just the leaves in general. As soon as I saw it at work, it piqued my interest immediately and I wanted one that like same day. It was bad. It was one of those types of plants, and so I started doing research on it. I believe this plant is nicknamed either the plant of life or the tree of life. I can't remember exactly. The main reason behind that is because every aspect of Cocos nuferus is used in some way, shape, or form, whether it be the coconut, like the insides of the coconut, the leaves, just everything about it. People have found ways to use this plant to benefit for building, for food, nutrients. It does it all. I've had a really good experience with it so far. It's against that west facing window, kind of smudged up next to the bookshelf. I don't water it too often. It's probably like every week and a half right now with the weather. And then I have the humidifier running. If you ever catch your eyes on one, I highly recommend them. They have so much character. I just need to find a cool pot for this one, and this thing will probably be like my prized possession for a long time coming. The next few plants I have over here are going to be my Monstera deliciosa. I've had this one for definitely over a year. I just repotted it maybe like 7 or so months ago, which honestly wasn't that long ago, but it has been consistently growing. It's been doing very, very well for me. I am noticing the newer leaves are coming in a little bit smaller, so it might be time to repot this one or at least fertilize it. I absolutely love this plant. It's a Monstera. Everyone has them. I feel like people have a lot of opinions on them just because of how popular they are and how they're kind of everywhere, but they look good, they feel good. They have just a really good energy to them, and they have such a beautiful leaf shape to them. I'm also just a huge fan of the aerial roots. I don't know how well you were able to see them, but I just love seeing that come out of the plants. They're just, to me, that's like a part of it. And I think why I generally enjoy them so much as well too. Up here we can see my last project that I did. This is my philodendron micans. It still has some very, very beautiful sun-stressed leaves from when I had it just facing that south-facing window, which I love, just that pop of like bright color ever so often on some of these leaves here. Super easy plant. It's been growing wonderful. I do see a lot more growth on this side, and I also feel like I see a lot more of the sun stress going on here, and it might be just because it's pressed up against this big west facing window that stays consistently bright as well too. The last plant over here, and it's hard to tell, is going to be this one that I have hiding right behind my micans. It is a philodendron iridescence red emerald. It's just a single leaf. This used to be big and lush and beautiful. I take care of a law firm, and this one just wasn't thriving in the conditions in the space, so I did take it back home with me, and I'm slowly trying to nurture it back to health. It's a weird one. It doesn't ever seem to dry out. I've changed the mix. I guess at this point could go through and put it in a smaller pot, but even then it was in a bigger pot beforehand. This is what it's been doing recently, and it seems to be consistently growing now, so I just decided not to mess with it. I'm trying to let it do its thing for the most part. That is going to be the 3 plants that I have on this side of the wall. Oh, you know what? Let me show off this one because it's technically against the side of the wall too. This is my alocasia. I actually don't know the exact ID. I did get this one at a local grocery store a long time ago. It came in as a huge 4-leaf alocasia, but it ended up getting spider mites and dying back, and then I was able to regrow it back from this. It's doing really good. It's slowly sizing up. I don't fertilize it right now, so I feel like once I start fertilizing it, I think that will really help kick it in. It gets lots and lots of natural light from a south-facing window and the west-facing. I want to say this might be an alocasia calidora. Calidora, I think is the name. But do not quote me, because like I said, I got this from like a grocery store and there was no name other than alocasia elephant ear on it. And with that being the case, that will wrap up this sidewall here. I'm gonna take you over and adjust and show off some of the plants that I have right against my south-facing window next. I am facing my big old south-facing window. It is a big, beautiful cutout. I get lots of natural light in. I have this nice screen in front of it, so it gives me privacy so I can keep the window open, but it also diffuses the light a little bit so it's not as intense, which is something I'm very thankful for. I'm gonna kind of show what I have over here right now. I'm still figuring out layouts and figuring out where I want to put things, so I'm not very much happy with where things are at so much over here, but these are some of the plants that I still really like. Just, you know, trying to figure out where to put them. To start off, we have my lovely philodendron painted lady. So I have this one on a moss pole here. Blue's right by, so he's getting a little nervous, I think. I was getting bigger leaves in the past, and now they're starting to slowly get smaller, even though it's connecting onto the pole. I'm not sure why. I don't know if I need to fertilize it or what's going on. A part of me does want to repot it into maybe some other type of medium and see if that helps. This is one of my original like mixes that I used to make, and it's a very airy one. It's very nice. The plant's been thriving in it, but it's just not giving me bigger leaves, and I need to figure out what's going on with that. Beautiful, beautiful leaves I've been getting on it recently. I don't know if this one is getting sun stressed. I think it might be. When I would get newer leaves, they would come out a little bit more yellowish, but these ones are coming out like very, very like almost to the point of orange tones, which is really cool to see. Moving on, this plant actually was outside for the most part. I actually just brought it in because we've been getting such intense winds that it's been knocking it over left and right, and it's just not looking super hot anymore. This is my Rick-Rack cactus. I cannot for the life of me remember the Latin name. This is this fella here. I am not really happy with it. I don't think it looks good at all. We can see that there's a lot of just dead stuff all over the plant. I am trying to decide how I want to handle it. A lot of the leaves are just super thin and like gross looking. They don't have any they look like they're just dry. Like no matter what, this plant doesn't seem to want to rebound. I have maybe a couple really nice like growth points, but other than that, like it's just not the best it's been. So a part of me kind of wants to cut it up, propagate, and maybe pot it up that way, but I don't know. I have to think about it a little bit more, but this is my Rick-Rack cactus. It was a beautiful plant. I really do enjoy it still, and I really want to try to bring it back, but this past like couple months, it just seems to be dwindling more and more. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure it out though at some point. Moving on, we have my other Syngonium. This is my Syngonium albo. Very beautiful plant. I love the variegation on the leaves. It is against that south-facing window, so it is getting the light it needs for sure. I thought I had some new growth somewhere, but I don't know where that somewhere is anymore. It might have unfurled and I just don't realize it. It's a really cool plant. The way that it's planted and how it looks right now is not my favorite. It's a little messy looking, so I need to figure out what I want to do with this in general. But until then, I've been letting it hang out, do its thing. Like I said, doesn't really give me too much fuss. This one piece right here in the middle is like freaking tall. I need to figure out something with this one. It's a little all over the place. My next one, I love so much. I love to talk about it because this one I actually got for free. I'm in a bunch of different Facebook groups, and I entered this drawing thing and I somehow got this plant for free. It's a Sarracenia. I believe they called it a buttercup. I've had it only for a couple months as well too. The previous owner was growing it outside full time, which I do not have the capacity to do so, especially with carnivorous plants. So I have moved it in. It is right in front of the south facing window and it is getting sun blasted. A lot of the older leaves have been just slowly crisping up and or were already crisp when I got it, which I'm totally fine with. But it looks like this is new growth and this is new growth. So it's slowly starting to pick up and kick in again, which is super exciting. I also see some growth, I believe, on this side corner too. Overall, it seems to be hanging in and doing pretty good. I definitely want to repot it and maybe go into moss instead of, repot it into sphagnum moss than it being in this peat moss perlite mix. I just want to see if I can find like a self-watering pot for it or something that I know can really retain moisture well. Up next, I feel awful because this was my favorite plant. And I know this is a really weird one to call your favorite, I feel like, but this was my all-time favorite, but my cats have destroyed it to the T. So I'm still gonna show it off, but it used to be such a beautiful and lush plant. But this is my Mimosa Paducah. This is also known as a sensitive plant. It is giving me this little half type bloom going on. This is such an amazing plant. I will say it is extremely fast growing and it's extremely rewarding to see grow. I think the leaf patterns are beautiful. You can see how tall it is even in this little 4-inch pot that I have it in. Before it was just so lush. It was all tall. It stood up on its own, but my cats have ran into it left and right and knocked it down a ton. So it's not doing its best, but this thing I water it almost every day, if not every other day, and it just gets sun blasted and it's been doing wonderful. As you can tell, it is a sensitive plant, so as soon as you tap them, the leaves do end up shedding, which I think is super fascinating. They don't want to be messed with too much, but it's something that I'll mess with ever so often just for fun. Right behind it, let's see if I can do it without knocking all the leaves. I have this Ficus elastica. I believe it's a ruby. I have had this forever and it is growing a lot more now. The newer leaves were coming in pretty small, so I was very worried for a while, but now they're starting to pick up. I do want to repot this one in a fresher soil mix and really stick with fertilizing in the summer. I would like to have like this be a floor plant. Not soon, but at some point. I don't see very often, I feel like, big Ficus elastica rubies. I only see them in 6 inches or smaller, so I think it'd be really cool to finally see a more mature one that's on the floor with that variegation pattern and not just a burgundy or a taniki. No hate on those two, both gorgeous, but just something a little bit different in those regards. I have this little small guy. It comes back and then dies and then comes back. So I got this at work a while back. This is supposed to be a type of native milkweed to where I'm based. I do live in Arizona, so it's a lot more of a hot desert climate. It is the Sonoran Desert, so it is a very wet desert compared to other deserts. I was getting a lot of good green growing on it, but my cat did knock this one down, and ever since then it's kind of just been a bundle of sticks. I'd still treat it like normal in hopes that it kicks in, and I'm hoping in the summertime I'll see something. That is going to be like kind of our south-facing window area. The other plant that I have here, I think I'm just gonna grab it and just hold it up. I think that's gonna be easier. I moved over my Australian tree fern. I'm trying to remember the Latin name for it, but it's not really clicking in my head right now. It's something Cooperi or Cooperi. This is the big plant itself. It was a lot more full and lush. You can definitely see I have some dry tips going on and that it's just not in its best condition. I will say I am getting tons of new growth. This is new growth down on this part right here. I have a new growth coming in right behind here and then new growth right here as well. On top of it looks like another one that's rolling out pretty soon. Once this next one rolls out, I do think I am going to go ahead and trim off the rest of the dead areas. It is kind of tucked in the south facing corner and it's been doing really good. I'm not getting any burnage on the newer leaves. It seems to be really liking where it's at. So I'm trying not to move it until necessary. I will say these are really cool too. If you've never seen these, they can get up to like 15 to 20 feet tall. That's gonna be a wrap pretty much in regards of the like south facing window. I am gonna adjust over to show you a little bit more of where I have the wall of art, the living wall of art area, and just kind of my entertainment system area as well too, because I do have some plants over here. So let me go ahead and do that. Onto this side over here, we're gonna start off with my gorgeous Tillandsia xerographica. This thing is massive, especially compared to my head. I am in love with this one. It's doing pretty good in my space. I was worried it wasn't gonna be getting enough light, and even then it still might not be, but I am getting a lot of new growth from the center point, and that's kind of what I'm caring about more than anything. If you don't have any air plants and you're curious, I highly recommend Azera Graphica. They are just phenomenal, they're gorgeous, and they look just good anywhere. So much freedom to have some fun with these ones as well too. Now, on to the next plants over here. So this is like the living wall of art that I was working on before. This is my Kokedama of my Anthurium pallidiforum. I love this plant. I did redo the Kokedama from that video. I was gonna do a comparison, but when you look at them, they look identical, but it is a lot smaller in person. It was a very, very big moss ball. I really enjoyed the redo of it. It has a little bit more roundness to it, and it seems to be pretty happy for the most part. I'm seeing the grass grow, which is fun. I'm happy that it's still growing. I didn't think it was going to. And it looks like the new growth is slowly unfurling. Originally, this leaf I want to cut out as soon as the new one comes in, but this one was starting to struggle. It looks like it finally stopped struggling, and it's starting to kind of get used to the environment, which is making me feel a lot more confident as well too. Super easy Anthurium, by the way. If you are trying to get into Anthuriums, I highly recommend a pallidiforum. Not only are they cool and long and strappy, they don't fuss too much, at least compared to other Anthuriums. So we have that, and then we will go over some of the air plants that I have over here as well too. To start off, we have the Tillandsia usinoides, also known as the Spanish moss. I have the Tillandsia harrisii. This one's doing really good. I'm getting a lot of new growth. The bottom ones are starting to crisp up, but I'm okay with that in general. This is the Tillandsia stephaphila. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I do. It seems to be rotting. All the other ones seem to be really happy and growing and doing well, but this is the only one I'm really struggling with. And then we have the Tillandsia bulbosa, this kind of finger-like. I believe it's also nicknamed Medusa, just because it looks like snake hairs, I guess. This one isn't doing bad by any means. It has a little bit of brown tips on some of the ends here, but it's nothing crazy. It's been giving me this new growth, but it hasn't like split open at all. So I'm kind of waiting to see what ends up happening. Our last one that we have here is going to be this big ol' Ionatha clump. I don't remember if I had a specific name for it other than the Ionatha. This one's also doing pretty good. It definitely has a good amount of like crisp ends on a good chunk of all the sides. I do try to rotate this one just because it is pressed up against the wall, so there is a side that doesn't really get a lot of light. And because I'm rotating it, I want to say it's because of that, but I also might need to be misting this one a little bit more often or a little bit more thoroughly. That is going to be the living wall area. I'm still waiting for my last little piece that I want to do. Other than that, I generally love everything over here. I think it's so much fun and it brings me a lot of joy, especially the Kokedama of the pallidiforum. Let's keep moving on. Next up here, this is a very special plant to me, even though it's very dusty looking right now. This was my first ever plant that I got. This was my little pothos. It started off as this cute little 6-inch and it has turned into the monster that it is today. I don't think I'll ever get rid of it, not for any specific reason other than it was my first plant. If I ever feel like it gets to that point, I do plan on taking a cutting, but until then, I love it. I like to do weird things with it. I have this one strand that's back here. It's pretty shaved off, but I actually took it and wrapped it around the base of the lamp, and it's been slowly wrapping itself around the lamp, which has brought me a lot of joy. And then I have another vine that goes all the way across the entertainment system that's kind of just roaming around. Over here, I have this cute little plumosa fern. I got this one not too long ago and it's been good. I haven't had too many issues. I have a little bit of yellowing and some crispness here and there. It gave me new growth and then it kind of just stopped growing. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or if something happened, but I'm kind of just waiting to see what goes on with this one. I love the leaf patterns. It reminds me of like these big canopy trees. It's just such a cool looking fern. And this is also the second fern I ever got. Slowly getting into ferns a little bit more, especially now that I feel like I have decent humidity in my space and I can continue to keep that humidity. It's bringing up my confidence to keep more ferns in the space. Here we have the one and only calathea in my space right now. This is a calathea, I have the label still, Warshkowski. Like I said, the Latin name for this one is super hard, but you'll also find it under jungle velvet. I'm not a big calathea person. I honestly think it's because I live in the desert. They need the humidity. They appreciate the humidity. And so it's very hard to keep up with them consistently, I feel like. I have decided to try another calathea, specifically this one, because I just love how the leaves look. It honestly looks fake to me. And I've been having some good success so far. It has only been probably no more than like 2 weeks, but the new growth has unfurled pretty nicely. I'm not seeing anything too crazy. There's a little bit of crisping on one of the plant, like leaf edges, but it's expected, it's fine, nothing's perfect. Depending on how this one goes, might see about getting more calathea in the future. I do want to try to find a nice self-watering pot. I think that's what's going to be my saving grace in the summertime, because I know this one's going to become very, very thirsty very, very quickly. Right next to me, I have this Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. I've had this forever. It was in a 4-inch pot, and I've slowly gotten it to climb up to the very top. Now, in regards to this plant, I am thinking about taking it off the moss pole. I don't like the look of it on the moss pole. I feel like all you see is a moss pole. Just way too big, way too chunky. I honestly think I might try to clip it to the wall and see if I can get it to grow across the wall. That is something I think would look very stunning and very fun and very simple. Thinking on it, trying to decide what I want to do, but that is a very, very high possibility in the future. If you want something that's going to grow tall and can take over very easily, a Rhaphidophora tetrasperma is a wonderful option in those regards, because this thing, if it's getting the proper lighting and, you know, watering when it needs, it can grow pretty tall, pretty freaking quick, I would say. And I have this section over here, so this will be changing very, very soon. A lot of the plants on here are being sold to a good friend of mine. Only one that won't be, I believe, is going to be this Stramanthe Trio Star. I'm kind of happy because you can see how tall the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma actually is and why I kind of want to push it against the wall. Right on the top here, I have another Monstera deliciosa. The reason why I have this plant, before I started working at a nursery, I actually was working a desk job as a social media manager. I really wanted plants, so I had specific plants in that office space. It wasn't the best lighting, but it was enough and they were consistently growing. I did get let go of that job like a long time ago. Took all the plants home. A good chunk of these are plants from the office space and I just haven't really done anything with. I thoroughly neglected this for months on months to the point where the soil got hydrophobic. It was fighting for its life, but it's been giving new growth consistently. It just needs better light. It's just too far away from the window. It's enough light to grow, just not enough light to thrive. So right next to him is my Syngonium here. This is a Syngonium white butterfly, I believe. It's growing in really nicely. I just lost all care for it. I don't find it very interesting. I find it very boring as a Syngonium, especially compared to the elbow and especially compared to the milk confetti. It just doesn't bring me joy. I don't really care for it anymore. It's doing great. It's adjusted really nicely. I thought being super far away from the window, it wasn't going to do that well, but it's been giving me consistent growth. I wish I can get it to stand up a little bit more straight, but also it's fighting to reach for the light. So I, don't mess with it too much in those regards. Underneath here is this Stramanthe Trio Star. So this plant and me go back. This used to be not this specific pot, it was a different pot. I repotted this and adjusted it a bunch. A long time ago, this was lush, beautiful, full, looked wonderful, such a cool plant. After a repot, it just died. Like it died. All I had left was this one single leaf, as you can kind of tell, and it has been a trooper. It has probably been up to almost a year. We're getting close to that year mark since the initial incident happened, and now look at where we're at. We are having so much new growth. It looks so good. Little mushrooms were growing out of it for a while, which was really fun. I want to take it out and repot into something smaller, but since I had such a traumatic experience repotting it the first time, I makes me too nervous to do it. But it is slowly growing in very nicely. I do need to make a decision on what I want to do because this is really ugly looking and I want to make this actually look nice. Underneath I have this Ebony Premium or Pothos. It is a marble queen, not a snow queen. I had a snow queen that I sold not too long ago. This one is pretty cool. It used to be a lot bigger, but my cats did knock it over, unfortunately, so it did end up getting a lot of damage. I still love it. This one's also going to be given as a gift just because I don't want too many of the same exact plant. Like, I'm really happy with my first ever pothos. My only excuse is my Monstera albo and my Tycon. Those are the only ones I will say differently on. But for the most part, I don't need multiple pothos. I'm really cool with it. So this one's also going to be given as a gift. It is very beautiful though. There is one other plant we're gonna show in this space here. It is technically in the middle of my living room in the ottoman section. It is this cute Pilea peperomia. It is very much grown out. I'm gonna probably pop off like all of these bottom leaves down here very soon because I don't like when they start to droop like this. Nothing wrong with the plant, it's just not the look that I like. It has been giving me so many new little growths. I should see about maybe propagating them in the future. I just haven't really messed with that yet. I cannot wait for it to get a little bit more mature and taller. I'm trying to rotate it as much as possible so it grows straight. It has a little bit of a curve, but for the most part, I'm keeping up with it, which is making me very excited in that sense. Very, very fun plant, very interesting, and not too hard at all. It's been thriving in the middle of my living room. That is going to be a wrap of all the plants that are in the living room at the moment. I don't have any other plants in this space, nothing else in the kitchen. I don't have any natural light in my bathroom and I didn't want to mess with anything in the bathroom, so there's no plants in there. And I also have no plants in my bedroom specifically. The only other spot that we have plants in are going to be in the spare room, or the stream room is what I call it, because that's where I do all of my content stuff. I'm gonna go into that room next and we're gonna kind of talk about what's in there. Majority of the plants are going to be in the greenhouse, but we're gonna go over, talk about those, and then that will be pretty much all the plants that I have in my collection right now. We have made it into the spare room. I think I'm gonna keep the camera here just because the lighting is very rough right now. It's very cloudy. It looks like we might be getting rain very soon. To start off, this is where I have my greenhouse cabinet. You can kind of see the doors open here. So before that, I'm gonna start off on the far side. I only have one plant over here and then one on my desk, and then we'll start going towards the greenhouse. I have this gorgeous, wonderful, beautiful Zamifolia, aka a ZZ plant. So you can see her in all of her might. She is doing great. It is a very dark area over there, but still giving me consistent growth. As you can see, this one's gonna be a huge stalk. I think it's gonna outdo this one, which I'm really excited about. And then I also have two more stalks in this back corner as well too that are coming in. A tank of a plant, not a lot of light at all, but it's still consistently growing, which is always a nice feeling to have. I don't think I'll ever get rid of this plant. This will always be my backup plant in regards of like, oh, I want to put something somewhere but I don't have enough light. Cool, boom, this one's coming in. I don't remember the last time I watered it. I don't remember the last time I did much for this thing. It just thrives on neglect. I shouldn't say that, that's not a good thing to say, but it really does just do its thing, and I don't really question it and I don't really make a fuss about it. Up next, I have this decently dried out and kind of sad looking philodendron Birkin. So I got this one from a grocery store. It is very grown out and it's very all over the place right now. It has a smaller pup that's growing down here, and then it has two bigger ones that are just kind of more in the center. Actually, this is two separate little pups, I just realized. I think I might try to take these ones out soon and see if maybe I can grow them separately, kind of like the red Congo, and just to see if I can get the variegation to kind of show up on these ones. I see it a little bit on some of the leaves, so I feel like I can get it to go. This one gets a lot of light from the south-facing window. During the normal days, a lot of light comes into the space, so it's very nice and bright. This leaf is also very interesting. It might be hard to see, at least on the front, but it actually started giving me some pink. On the back side here, you can kind of see a little bit better that it has like this weird red mark on it. So it's a very interesting plant. From there, I think I want to start with what's on top of the cabinet. So on top of here, I have this Aglaonema Chinese evergreen. I always forget the exact terms. Unfortunately, it wasn't doing good for a while. It started to rot. I ended up taking some of the last bits and just kind of putting them in this little cup with perlite and letting them grow in that way. They are starting to root, which is super exciting. I am just kind of waiting to see some new growth come in. I don't know if this one's gonna kick back in. It looks like it's trying to, so fingers crossed on that part, but I'm just trying to get it back up and running. Once I have some solid roots, I'll pot it into a little 4-inch and then we'll try again. That's kind of like my little mini project for this one here. Speaking of little, just kidding, this is huge. This is going to be my big ol' ponytail palm here. I haven't done too much for this one other than water it and stuff, but I am in love with it. I cannot wait for it to mature out. It is giving me new growth like crazy. And I seriously mean like crazy. Like this plant is just thriving. I do know that this plant is actually not a palm at all. It is technically a succulent. I cannot think of the Latin name for it at the moment. It's slow growing. It loves bright light, but nothing too direct. And I've seen massive ones, absolutely massive ones in person and online, and that kind of was what inspired me to try and grow one myself. It's gonna be a long time before we get it into a bigger size, but I'm pretty happy at the size that it's at right now. Right next to the ponytail palm, I have my philodendron silver sword. This one is going to be getting chopped and propped up very soon. It has never really grown for me. It has grown, but just never bigger leaves. I know it's in a 4-inch, so if I were to move it up to a bigger pot, that probably would solve the issue. I'm not really loving it anymore. It was definitely one of those impulse buys that I was like, oh, this is so stunning, but it just never really hit for me. Even when I see super mature ones in person, I'm like, nah, that's cool, but yeah, I think I'm just gonna prop it up, chop it, get it to grow a little bit, and then I'll sell the propagations or something or give them out to people. The last one that's on top is going to be my big boy. This is my bigger version of the philodendron red Congo. So I showed the pup earlier out in the living room. Here is the actual large mature one. It's doing really good, nothing crazy. That's the only yellow leaf it's been giving me. Everything else is looking pretty solid. Like I said, it does have a lot of specks on the leaves, and I still don't know if that's a lighting thing or a type of fungus. I need to kind of double check and see. The new leaves don't get them until later on, so that's why I think it's a lighting situation. Onwards into the cabinet we go. First thing I'm going to be grabbing out is this lovely little carnivorous plant. This is the Drosera sundew. It is such a cool freaking plant. I love just seeing all of the little stickies on the leaf. It's just such a interesting and fascinating carnivorous plant in general. I am very tempted. I've noticed that I have a lot of little offshoots. I want to do a cool project with some carnivorous plants, so I'm very tempted to take some of these out and do something with it in the future. But until then, I'm just keeping it in the cabinet. It's doing super, super well. I even think I see potential moss growing on the bottom, so if that is the case, I definitely think I might try to take some of that moss and start growing it. Inside the cabinet next, we have the plant that doesn't do anything for me and refuses to do anything for me, and I don't think will ever do anything for me. My Hoya polynera, also the fishtail Hoya. It has just been this cutting. It's been over a year. No, not over a year. It's been probably about 8 months, 8 or 9 months. And it's just done nothing. It's just been consistent. I've given it super bright light. I've put it in higher humidity. I've done everything under the moon, and there's just nothing. It's giving me root growth. Like, the roots are growing. I see them growing. So I don't know. I'm hoping one day it kicks in and it gives me something to work with, but until then, I just have it chilling right now, so we shall see. Over by the polynera, we also have a anthurium. This is going to be my Anthurium radicans luxurians. This leaf is definitely going, and it's time to take it off. I don't know if I can, I'll probably just cut it off later. The other 3 leaves, which all came in with me, are doing pretty good. I do see some new growth or at least it looks like it's trying to give some new growth, which is exciting. This plant was doing really good, and then I repotted it and it kind of stopped, but I think it's because it's just slowly working on roots now. I am hoping to see some more action out of this plant soon. A lot of people said this is a super easy Anthurium, but it hasn't really been doing too much for me. Here I have the smallest little seed. This is, I'm trying to see if I like hide my head, if I can get it to focus. There we go. This is a Anthurium magnificum, little seedling. It has been a seedling, and I don't know if it'll ever grow out of being a seedling. I try to keep it moist, and it gets a decent amount of light, but it just kind of sits there. Not really anything else going on, so we'll kind of wait and see what goes on with it in the future. I'm not too bothered, but it hasn't died yet, so that's cool. Seedlings aren't really my thing, though. It's kind of my first time messing with them. Next here we have this beautiful Alocasia caprea. She is definitely drying out, so it's gonna be time to water soon, but it is doing phenomenal. Another update too, I guess, with the cabinet is we were dealing with spider mites with pretty much everything in there. Good news is it's practically gone. I do see a little bit forming on some of the leaves, but as soon as I see them, I spray them down and wipe them down. So I feel like that's really helping with them. I am sad I'm gonna lose this leaf. This was one of the first leaves that it came with. You can definitely see the yellowing kind of going on. It is what it is. It will be nice because then the rest of this plant will be kind of all towards one side. So that should make it a lot easier in general to work with. Up next, I have my lemon and lime maranta. It's doing good. It's giving me new growth, but I do plan on moving it into something smaller. The roots were really grown out, and it could fit. I mean, obviously it's not dead. It was fine fitting it in a 6-inch, but it is just very bare and it's not doing too much. So I definitely think cutting it down to something smaller, it's probably gonna be a better bet for me, at least for this one. Other than that, it's been low maintenance, nothing crazy. It's in the greenhouse, so the extra humidity is definitely helping out big time, but it's just not the most attractive looking plant right now. So that's why I definitely wanna go through and spend some time and really try to get it to look a lot better than what it's looking like right now. Next up is going to be my Philodendron El Chaco Red. This is our latest leaf. It's still coming in. It's looking so pretty. I'm so happy with how it's turning out. It's looking really good. This one also, I'm not really seeing any more spider mites. There was a little bit in the beginning, but I've been consistent with spraying them down, and this one is just pretty much looking solid. I don't see anything on the new leaf either, which is making me feel a lot more comfortable. And then even on this other one, I don't see, I see like one or two. Nothing crazy though. So I think another good spray down, and that should be a wrap for this one. It is thirsty and ready for more water, but as soon as this leaf finishes off and hardens off, like these other ones, I will be taking it out and I will be potting it up. So I'm very excited about that. This is by far one of the most interesting philodendrons I think I have. It's stunning. I love it. She's gorgeous. And I really can't wait to get her into a pot and kind of just be able to showcase this plant, because you can really see the roots are doing fantastic. Next, I have both of these plants here. They're identical. They're actually from the same exact stick from the prior plant. This is my Philodendron verrucosum Amazon Sunset. You can see how gorgeous the back is on these plants, and just the fuzzy petioles that come in with them. They are beautiful, phenomenal. I really, really love these ones. I will say they are definitely taking a harder hit from the spider mites. I see some more mature and bigger ones and kind of clumps on these leaves, so definitely need to spray these ones down, and I might even consider quarantining them further along if possible. It's just so hard because I know these ones really enjoy the extra humidity. Both of them are doing good. This one is definitely ready for some water as well too. The cabinet, I think, just overall needs some water, so I'll water them after I'm all done with the video. Last but not least, we have my Anthurium verrucoquinum. I don't try to mess with this plant too often. I really don't like even touching the leaves. It makes me nervous. This plant is very sensitive, I feel like. Even just taking it out of the cabinet and showing it, I feel like I'm gonna regret it. But these have been the two leaves that it's given me in my care, and I'm very happy with it overall. And then this is one of the main ones that it came with. It's definitely about time to get rid of that one, I think, especially with the second leaf coming in. So I'll probably end up watering this one too and then cutting it off. But The root growth has been very, very nice looking as well too. And like I said, it's been a hard plant, but it's given me growth very often. So I'm scared of it, but not too scared. I feel like I can always make it work out. Stunning, stunning Anthurium. Challenging, but very much worth it once you get into the groove of it. I actually almost forgot about one little plant that I've had in this corner. And the reason why I almost forgot it is because it never really needs anything. This is just a Sansevieria. I don't know the exact type or species. This plant is super cool to me. It is, yes, it's just a snake plant, but this was originally just 3 little cuttings and it has grown into something very, very big and gorgeous. The cuttings I got from my grandmother when I visited her for Christmas. She has a huge snake plant. It's probably like 10 or 15 years old at this point. She's always had it. And so I asked to take some cuttings and to see what I can do. And I got this all rooted up and it looks great. It is filled in so much. It is getting some decent height as well too, which is really exciting. I wouldn't mind having something small like this, but very tall if possible. That is going to be a wrap in regards to the spare room and or stream room. I showed everything that's in the greenhouse. I showed what's on top and then just some of the spare plants that are kind of in the room itself. There's only one other spot that I haven't really shown, and that is my outdoor area. The way my outdoor is laid out is that one, I will absolutely expose myself if I try to take my camera out and show any footage of there, so I will be bringing them in. On top of that too, it's just really noisy, so it would be really hard to kind of make anything work. So I am going to go grab some of those plants and bring them in. I think I have like 5 or 6 plants, so it's not a lot out there, but I'm gonna bring them in and we're gonna talk a little bit about them, and then that will be a wrap up. As you can see, I have my little array here. I wasn't sure how to do this, and since I didn't want my cat to find out, I like just rushed everything in. I don't think he knows yet, so we should be good. This is my outdoor setup right now. This is what I have kind of going on. To start off, just so I can move it to the side because it's so big, I have this beautiful, beautiful Norfolk pine. It has been doing pretty good outside so far. They can survive full time outside, even in the hot summers of like Arizona, even in like those crispy 115-degree days. They just need to have full shade. Mine does not. I don't have any full shade in the area, so I unfortunately cannot do that for this one. So I will be bringing it in the next probably month or so, probably honestly pretty soon once we start getting into those higher temps. So it's been growing very nicely. It's been doing pretty well. I do see a little bit of yellowing and some crispiness on some of the edges and stuff. It is what it is. It gets a little bit too much light, like I mentioned. It's still a truly beautiful, beautiful plant, and it is pretty freaking big. So I have a lot of goals for this one as time progresses on. I'm gonna bundle the next 3 together because they're all euphorbia. They're all technically euphorbia trigona. So I have this very, very big one here, and then I have these 2 small ones. The 2 small ones I bought the same time from my work. They've been slowly growing. This one has been pretty slow. This solid, like more typical green has been growing like crazy. This is all new growth. All these little arms are new. It's been doing wonderful. This big one though, I'm really proud of. You can definitely see it is starting to finally go and form up. Originally, I was taking out the trash, and we have some bigger ones of these around my apartment complex, and they were tossing them out after trimming them. So like I was in that trash just like pulling out these big old cuttings, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try my best and I'm gonna just try to root them up and see what goes on. And for a while they didn't seem like they were doing too well, and I was very bummed out. But after some more consistent rain, it started to really thrive. The base, as you can kind of see, is slowly starting to get its color back. It used to be a very, very dark red, like the tops here, but now they are very much green, and you can feel them too. They're like more thick. So this plant is slowly working its way back up. I really don't water it too often. We've been getting enough rain where it's been spaced out and it's just been working out for me. But I'm very proud of this one. I have brought it back, I feel like, for the most part, and I definitely plan on keeping it going. The next one that I have here is my adenium. This one is a super, super cool one. A lot of the leaves have died off on me. I'm not too bummed out because it does push out new growth constantly, and I'm not getting any rotting or any issues in those regards, which is what I more so care about. But I just love these plants. They have so much character to them. I'm hoping to in the future, I don't mind that it's bare. I would love to have some just really nice big leaves towards the end, just to like really showcase and really bring focus towards the trunk and like just the stem, because I think that's what has the most character to me and what really attracted me to this plant in general. The leaves, the way that it grows, just the overall trunk as time progresses. You can repot these ever so often and just lift them up a little bit more and just slowly get them taller and taller that way on top of the growth. And I just find that super fascinating, especially too with such an interesting plant. And they can take a lot of light, which is really, really nice. I don't have to worry about it too often. This is honestly, I think the latest plant that I've gotten. This was actually given to me for free, which was really nice from work. I don't know if they were gonna toss it or they just didn't know what to do with it, but I was super excited to take it home. I don't remember the Latin name. I know the nickname is like white torch cactus. I've seen them very mature and they're so fun. I just love how goofy they are. I love how they kind of hang down. There's just so much character with these ones. Since I brought it home, I've done nothing but kept it outside. I'm intimidated by this. I still need to do a lot more research. It's a super, super cool cacti and I have lots and lots of work to do with it and just a lot to learn about it in general as well too. But yeah, this is going to be the last plant of my collection. Thank you so much for watching today's video. That is going to be a wrap. It was a long walkthrough, but it was super fun kind of going through and seeing all my plants and really getting to talk about them and just my experiences with them and how long I've had them. It made me appreciate them a little bit more, I think, today as well too. If you did like the video, please give me a thumbs up, share it with other friends, and don't forget to subscribe too. I am at a point where I'm posting pretty much weekly on Fridays now, and it's feeling really good. I'm having so much fun just talking about plants and sharing my space and talking about all the different ideas on how I want to showcase plants and turn them into conversation starters if I can. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night wherever you may be, and I will catch you in the next one. Later.